Brought to you by
A very good evening to you. My name is Sophia Matovu, and I'm sitting in for Dr. Henry Dungu, who's not been able to make it tonight due to a medical emergency. You're watching You Health Chat, proudly sponsored by National Medical Stores. They are the team that have made it possible for us to be able to pull off this show for you. Now, we are going to talk about a disorder that is very common in Uganda and the world over, and that is autism. You know, it's not a new phase, I believe, to some of you. While for some it might be a new phase, you might have not heard about it, but it is a very common disorder, and I think it's high time we need to talk about it. Now, here with me in studio to talk about this is Florence Namaganda. She is a co-founder and director of Mukisa Foundation, Special Children's Trust. And in addition to that, she's a neurodevelopment therapist. You might be asking yourself about what that title means, but Florence will be able to take us through more into it. Florence, a very good evening and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sophie, for hosting me.
Okay. Now, Florence, first to start with, you know, we know about neurosurgeons, we know about orthopedic surgeons. Now you're telling us you're a neurodevelopment therapist. What exactly is that?
So my profession is really, the simplest way to say is you play with children who have developmental problems, especially with their brains, so that you can help them get better. That is the simplest way to put it. But when you complicate it a little, you say someone or a neurodevelopment therapist studies. So I started, maybe let me just talk about myself. I started physiotherapy in Malago, and then I went to the UK where I did neuropediatrics, and then then I came back home. So that is the reason why I'm a neurodevelopment therapist.
Okay. Now, when we talk about, we get to the condition that we'd like to talk about, the disorder. What is autism? For a layman, because, you know, we want to help parents be able to identify children who have this kind of disorders. So what is autism?
So autism is one of the development disorders, meaning it's a condition that affects children. Okay? And the best way to explain it is, it used to be called autism spectrum. It is called autism spectrum disorder. And before then, there were so many conditions under it. And they were saying that from the child who is very mild to a child who is very severe, and all those conditions were given different names. That's why it was called a spectrum disorder. Now it's still called a spectrum disorder, but all the conditions were put together and given a simpler diagnosis. Okay, so right now it's diagnosed according to three major things. Okay, so a child with autism or autism spectrum disorder should have a challenge with social interaction, then will have a challenge with social communication, and may also have a challenge with, or has a problem with behavior, and majorly they have restricted repetitive interests. That's when a person is diagnosed to have autism.
When you talk about the repetitive, you know, bits, like what now, for example? Because we're helping parents and a viewer out there be able to identify some of these conditions.
So when we go to social interaction, that means that a person cannot interact the way we are doing. So with the way we are talking to one another, you know that I speak, you keep when I'm speaking, you keep quiet, you listen to me. You look at me, I look at you. You know, this exchange, which they call social emotional reciprocity. So the child cannot be able to do that. They will not be able to do eye contact. They will not be able to know that you're sad. They will not be able to know, how can I phrase this? They will not be able to gauge what other kids would do socially. So they will not also be able to mimic like facial expressions. So for example, a child, when you smile, they smile back at you. A child with autism will not be able to do that. When you're angry and you show a face, they may copy that and try it out. A child with autism will not be able to do that. They will not be able to do eye contact, you know, things like that. That is the social interaction bit. Then the social communication, it's both the verbal communication. Some of the children will have no words at all. Some of them may not have any words at all. Some of them may have a few words, but even spoken in a way that is like robotic. Yes, or not spoken at the right time, or not spoken with the meaning that they should mean, you know, that kind of thing. And then they will have the non-verbal communication. They don't understand gestures. So when I do something, they will not be able to know that this is what I mean. Okay, so they will not be able to point. They will not be able to understand that when like the different gestures, what they mean. They will not be able to know that. Then the other one is the repetitive behavior. So you'll find children with autism wanting the sameness, especially in routine. So he wakes up in the morning, he does exactly the same thing. So he wakes up in the morning, he goes to the bathroom, he brushes his teeth, and after that he dresses, and after dressing he goes to school. So if you created any change in that routine, it would disrupt him. Or the other repetitive interest will be an interest in food. So they might want very soft things or very hard things like popcorn, crisps only. Or if they drink milk, they want milk only. You know, that kind of thing. So they have restricted interest in meals, in diet. Sometimes they have restricted interest in play. So they might want to line up, every time they get to play, they line up their cars in the same straight line, or play around with a stick, or walk in a straight line all the time, or want to follow the same way to school every day, or wear the same color every day. And maybe if they like a certain color, if it's blue, they want a blue plate, they want a blue plate, and then blue cap, then blue clothes, then blue room, you know, that kind of thing. So those are the restricted interests.
Okay.
Yeah.
How common is this condition here in Uganda?
So the condition, you know, in Uganda we don't have very good statistics, but when I can tell you that it's on the increase, that's for sure, because when I started out about 13 years ago, we used to follow statistics like American or world statistics, where they were saying 1 in 10,000, actually in 100,000 children had autism. And then now it moved to 1 in every 10,000. Then it moved to 1 in every 1,000. Then it moved to 1 in every 80. Yeah. So now we're at about 1 in every 80 children has autism. Okay. So it's growing worldwide, not just in Uganda, but everywhere around the world.
Wow, that's really scary. What are the causes of autism? So
the causes of autism are not known. They are unknown. But with the research that is being done, there are so many things that are being said. So one, people are blaming the environment. So the changes in the environment are making autism more rampant. They are also talking about genetics. Sometimes it can be that it can be passed on. It can be noticed that more than one person in the family has it. But really the real causes are unknown. So there are those things that have been said, like vaccines and all those things, but those are not well researched things, and nobody can quantify them, or nobody can say that actually they've done research and it correlates. So really the cause of autism is unknown, but all we know is that it's on the increase. But also diagnosis is on the increase, because right now people are more aware and they take their children to hospital earlier, so many more children are being diagnosed right now than they were before.
Okay, much as diagnosis, because you've spelled out for us some of the key things to look out for, is on the increase, like you're saying. But you know, as a parent, they're normally desperate to ensure and would like to see their child live a normal life. So what treatments are already available on the market to be able to deal with this kind of conditions? Yeah.
Now, autism is not treatable. Yeah. So a child with autism will be an adult with autism. However, there are interventions that can help to help a child or an individual with autism live to their full potential. So one thing we need to know, actually going back a little bit, autism is diagnosed according to the levels, according to how much, let's say, how much help a person needs to be able to live in their environment. So for example, level 1 would mean a child needs some support. Then level 2, a child needs significant support. Then level 3, which is the severe one, means the child needs a lot of support in order to be able to live in their environment. So all those levels, so the interventions will depend on the levels. Okay. So and also what the child manifests with. So there is no one size fits all. So that's why there should be an assessment of every child who someone thinks has autism. So you need to take them to a center or a place with knowledgeable people to do the assessment. After the assessment is being done, the therapists who are doing the assessment, or the psychologist, or whoever does the assessment, should be able to say, well, this child is at this level. If, for example, they have a problem with social communication, then they will involve a speech and language therapist to help with that. If they have a problem with social interaction, which also involves their attention and so how a child attends to things, or they may be they might have some hyperactivity. So all these things, then they will get an occupational therapist who will help with that. So it all depends on the child. And then there are behavior therapists as well who will help with behavior. So many times if a child with autism is not helped at a very young age, then they'll get many more significant behavior challenges when they're older. So then you'll need behaviorists, or people who can help with behavior. And then you'll also need teachers to help keep this child in school, or to teach them in a way that they can learn. So it all depends on the level and what the child needs. And once you know what the child needs, you do the necessary interventions. But I have to stress that it has to be done as early as possible. So once mama or daddy notices some things that don't look familiar, they need to go and seek help. Because the earlier, the better. Early intervention is the key to helping a child with autism.
At what stage, at least you who's dealt with this kind of children with this kind of disorder, at what stage do you normally identify the complication? Is it immediately after birth, when they start, kids start doing signs, start trying, or is it much later as they keep growing?
No, they say that after 2 years, you can definitely diagnose a child with autism. But when you talk to mama, they will tell you that there was something different about this child. They'll say, when I was breastfeeding, baby did not ever look at me. They did not look at my face. So they did not maintain eye contact. Or when I smiled at them, they did not smile back. Oh, my child did not do those sounds, did not babble, did not coo, did not do all those things. So parents usually know, at a very early age, that there's something that may not be right. But normally as a parent, you hope that will go away, that you hope that the child will be better. But from age 2, a child can be diagnosed with having autism. And normally parents bring children to centers like ours because they have noticed the child is not speaking, or that they got some words and the words went away at some point. That's when parents bring their children to be assessed.
Okay, now you talk about a center like yours at Special Children's Trust, Now, how many cases of children with autism do you have at the center, and how are you managing and dealing with them? Because there are certain times as parents you get desperate, assuming you have other kids who are normal. You want this kid, you think the kid is not catching up and moving at the pace like the others. And then others will start thinking of the aspect of witchcraft.
Yes. Yes.
So how do you deal with it?
So, first of all, at Special Children's Trust is an umbrella of organizations. So we have Mukisa Foundation in Lunguja, and we have Dawn Children's Center in Bukoto. And we have what we call the Special Children's Forum, which is a forum of many organizations that come together. And our overall goal is to make Uganda safe and better for children with disabilities, to make sure that they can thrive in a safe environment that is also inclusive. So, now back to your question of how many children we have with autism. It's very interesting. When we started out, Dawn especially, we only had children with physical disabilities for the first 2 years. We didn't have many children with intellectual disabilities, or what now one of the conditions being autism. We didn't have children with intellectual disabilities or mental disabilities. But right now, it has flipped. 60% of our children with disabilities have intellectual disabilities. Yes. And that is also showing you that
it is on the increase.
It's on the increase. And it's not just autism, there are other conditions also. Maybe another time we can talk about other mental disabilities. But autism is on a big increase. And most of them actually, among the 60%, even more, of children with intellectual disabilities, about 80% of them have autism, or are on the autism spectrum.
Wow.
Yes.
So how do you handle and deal with them? Because I imagine certain times they find it a little bit hard to fit them in the normal setup and society. And they would rather, as a parent, you're desperate Now you have to put this kid in a special school. So how do you deal with it?
So as an organization, we decided that we will not do special school, we will do inclusive school, because we realize that children were never meant to be on their own. We believe that children can learn and flourish together, and that's our slogan as Dawn. All children come together and everybody learns according to their needs, you know. So we have, when a child comes, we do an assessment, we know what their needs are, and then we put them in the right class. Okay, so we have those classes that focus majorly on behavior, so attention concentration classes and behavior classes, where a child will only do those things and will do activities that will help them achieve that. Because we want, some of the goals for our children are sitting down on a chair for 2 seconds even, because we get children who are just jumping up and down, and all we do is helping them sit down for those 2 seconds. Then we get them to attend to an activity for maybe 2 minutes, then we continue to 5 minutes. Then once they achieve that, we do toilet training, because it's important that our children can either at least let you know when they want to go or take themselves to the toilet. So in that behavior class, they'll be learning toilet training, they'll be learning attention concentration, they'll be learning other social behaviors, sharing, turn taking, and things like that. And after they've learned that, then we'll take them on to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. And eventually, most children will end up in the academic classes, so they'll do baby class, middle class, top class, and then they'll go into primary school.
Do you follow up on them? Because I can imagine if they're used to a particular way, now you've put them in a place where it's normal, it's a normal setup, and nobody will possibly even give them that much attention to think that they are a special child. Have you done an assessment and tried to follow up on how they are responding in the community out there, in the other schools, after they're done with their education at Dawn?
Yeah. Sadly, children with autism do not flourish very well in other settings. So many children go and then come back to us. So what we have decided now as a center, we started, as I said, with only kindergarten, and now we are up to P4. So that we are growing the school because we know what the need is. Because many of our children go to other schools and maybe they're not understood, and then they regress, and then they bring them back to us and we have to start afresh. So what we've decided is we start and we continue with the child. And then we continue building the curriculum, and right now we are doing a competence-based curriculum where we are trying to make sure that a child is learning at their level. But also having therapies, as I said, they still continue with speech and language, they still continue with occupational therapy to ensure that the child grows holistically. So that's the best way for kids with autism to grow. They need a holistic approach. They need the therapies, they need the behavior training, they need the scheduling, and they need the education.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, at this particular time, I would like for us to take a very short break, and when we do come back, we'll still continue the topic of discussion, which is autism.
And Juba Super Spellers is back with season 2.
My name is Gabriela with
Angelina. Children 5 to 11 years will confidently spell to learn and win.
My name is Mebaza Charlotte Brittany, and I'll be your pronouncer.
This season we have a whole new set of new super spellers.
Your word is close.
C-L-O-S-E.
Success. S-U-C-C-E-S-S.
That is correct.
And Juba Super Spellers, words change the world.
This weekend on UBC.
All right, now today we are all about celebrating the best and the brightest in this film industry. This young lady is extremely talented.
If you had taken 5 minutes off your busy schedule to just... times have changed. There is so much growth. What men can do, women can do better. Like, it's a revolution now. We got into a fight and the man slapped me, and then we got into our bigger fight.
Brought to you by
Hammam Spa and Salon is located at Fairway Hotel. For bookings, contact us on 0414-671-775 or 0701-323-212. Hammam Spa and Salon, drift to serenity.
You're still watching You Health Chat, proudly sponsored by National Medical Stores. And we are talking about autism disorder, which is going on the increase here in Uganda. And here we are here trying to help you to identify and be able to know how to deal with it. And with me in studio, like I said earlier at the beginning of the show, if you've just joined us, is Florence Namaganda, who is a neurodevelopment therapist. And she did explain about what exactly it's all about. And she's one of the co-founders and directors of Mukisa Foundation Special Children's Trust. And you can always find where to visit it and be able to identify with some of these children, but they're very beautiful and wonderful children. Now we get to you. There are certain times where people believe, you know, that the anti-seizure drugs can be able to help cap down and control autism disorder. How far true is it?
Well, that is, and I cannot speak very much about medication, but the one thing is that most of that is unresearched. We know that there is medication that can help with hyperactivity. We know that there is medication to help with hyperactivity when a child is not stimulated enough to perform. But really, there is no medication. There is no medication for autism as a condition. So the medicine that they will give would be for those two things, as I've said, and there will also be medication maybe for eating if a child does not have appetite. There'll be medications for different things, but not really for autism. And because I said autism is something that affects the brain, yeah, so you can have boosters and all these things, but you can't have medication to cure. Yeah. And also there is a problem with medication that if you give it constantly without reviewing it, without changing it, it can cause more side effects. I've seen children who could have been able to perform better, but because of medication they start losing even the little skills that they had. So if a parent puts a child on medication, especially for hyperactivity, there are some medications that are according to weight, size, and also should be for a specified amount of time. That when the time ends, they need to go back to the doctor and review. Yeah. Yes.
Then how do you help these children deal with the, you know, the anxiety, the depression? You know, there are certain times it's hard to fit them in amongst other kids, and then it's just like there, really like.
So autism, as we explained it in the beginning, depression is not one of the things that you use to diagnose autism. So depression is another condition altogether, which can affect anybody even without autism. So you can have autism and have another condition which we call in medical terms comorbidity, whereby you have one condition but you have another condition, also another underlying condition. So if someone has anxiety disorders, that could be something else on top of the autism. And then when you're treating, I believe they would treat the autism separately and also the anxiety separately. Yes.
Now there are certain times parents are finding it a little bit complicated. When you're at home, the kid is from school. Are you also helping parents to be able to appreciate and to fit these children in the particular setup at home?
Yes. As you know, I explained about repetitive behavior and also wanting a specific schedule. People with autism or children with autism flourish with schedules, knowing what to expect next. So if you have a schedule at school and there is no schedule at home, the child gets lost and behavior or poor behavior increases. So what we do with parents is we train them And we also help them appreciate the fact that there is need for schedule at home, that you can't just keep changing things around the way you change them from any other child, because for children with autism, some of them it's very difficult to adjust to changes. They want to know what is expected. And also, like, we laugh about it at work because they have like a timer in their brains, most of them. Some of the children will tell you it's break time. Not because some of them are non-verbal. They will not speak that it's break time, but he will start crying because he needs to be outside, and you're still keeping them inside. When lunch, before you even ring the bell for lunch, before you bring the food, the child knows it's 12:30, it's lunchtime. Somehow they have that sense for time and for schedules. So if you help them with the schedule and you help the parents also do the same, then the child's behavior is much better.
I'm meant to understand they also have a particular sensitivity where, like to sound and to noise. Yes.
So that is something to do with sensory processing. Many children with autism will have a problem with sensory processing. They have sensory processors. So, for example, we know that we have, how many senses do you have, Sophie? 5. Well, in medicine we say we have 7 senses. So we include the normal 5, the 5 that are like sight, taste,
smell, hearing, and
touch.
And touch, yes.
Okay, so the 5. Then we have another one, a sense of balance, which is called the vestibular. And then we have the proprioceptive, which helps you to understand your position in space. So those are the 7 senses. Now, for children with autism, they may have some senses or almost all of them hyper, like they sense. They sense it very quickly. So, for example, a child who is hypersensitive to sound will not be able to sit in this room because of that sound behind there. Is that a fan? So you will find that he's finding problems with that, and before you know it, they start rocking back to the sound of that.
Fan.
Yes, or when there is rain, when there is music, when there is the changes in sound that affects them. Then you find a child who is hypersensitive to touch, they will not want certain clothes. And these, what are they called? These things, the labels that they put in clothes will affect them. So you'll find a child walking up and down and touching there because of the label. Or if they don't like the feeling of certain materials, they will keep taking off their clothes. And most times parents come to us and they say the child has never been with pants on. And then we say, okay, let's change from this nylon type to a cotton type. And the child starts wearing their pants because the other material was obnoxious for them, because they're hypersensitive. Then we have those ones who are undersensitive, that they need a lot of stimulation for them to feel. Wow. So, for example, the sense of proprioception and vestibular, if the child is undersensitive to that one, where they kind of don't feel who they are, they can't feel their position in space, they will want to be up in height, they will be jumping up and down, they will be, sometimes they even scare you. Someone climbs up the highest level and is swinging from there and is finding it much fun, while the rest of you are scared of heights. For them, they will not be. They will be jumping up and down because their body is saying, I need more, I need more, I need more. I don't feel it yet. Yes. Yeah, so when they are undersensitive, then they want more sensory feedback. When they are oversensitive, they want less sensory feedback. So it's the people in their lives who need to be able to grade that and know that when this noise is there, my child suffers. So then you take them away from crowds, you take them away from loud noises, because you know once it gets to that level where they're where they feel like they've gotten their optimal level, and it goes beyond threshold, then they will start acting up.
Oh dear.
Yes, so it depends on the child.
Then there's a parent one time who said they were having a problem keeping the child clean and neat, where they feel it's really, really, really a very big challenge. Now, how do you help them to deal with that? Because I don't know, what is it about that they will always keep, it's not like you'd say they are rolling in mud or getting themselves, but they always find themselves in a way messy.
Okay, and that is not for all. Again, I said sensory feedback. We need to understand the child's sensory needs. So a child who wants to be in sand and pours it on themselves and rolls around, this is a child who needs more stimulation in terms of touch, yes, and also in terms maybe vestibular. They need to feel. So what you do is, in order to take away one bad behavior and replace it, you need to in order to take away one thing, you need to give them something else. So for example, if you know my child loves sand and they pour it on themselves, there is no harm in giving them a particular time of day when they are allowed to do that. Yeah? We all have those things that we really need in our lives to be, you know? Yes. So if you get a little bit of that, then you can do other things. So one of the things we do is a lot of sand play, a lot of water play, so these child can get their sensory feedback, and so that they can get to optimal level. And then if they know that I'll get it every day at 10 o'clock, then there is no need for them to run around rolling, because they know when it comes to 10, I'll go and roll. And after that, everything is fine. And I always tell parents, don't create a schedule that you cannot maintain. So for example, if you know 10 o'clock is a difficult time, then give them rolling at 5 when you know that after 5,
I am back home.
I'm back home and they're going to bathe. So he goes and rolls and plays in the sand and puts it in his hair and does whatever, and then takes a shower. So he goes straight from the sand play into the bathroom, and then you wash and then clean up, and all is good, and your child is happy, you're also happy. So there are those things where you cannot take them away completely, but you can schedule it into their lives because you know that they need it. You cannot completely take it away from them. Or the other thing is creating an alternative. So if sand is very messy, what other thing can I give my child that gives them the same feedback, or the same sensory feedback as the sand? Then you try to find it. Yeah. There's a parent who came to us and said the child was collecting polythene bags everywhere they went. And I was like, yeah, it's the sensory feedback of the polythene bag. I was like, what does he use it for? The parent was like, he touches it and feels it and it makes that noise. Like, what else can we give him that can make him feel the same? So that instead of collecting them, he has it in his pocket. So whenever he touches his pocket and touches it, he knows, this is my bag and it makes my noise and I'm okay.
Wow.
Then I don't need to go around the street collecting them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then how long do you think does it take, at least you've dealt with this, how long does it take, because I guess it varies from level to level, for them to cope in and appreciate, and you really can say that now this is a child who is fitting in, you know, with the rest of the other kids, and they're able to respond and are getting used to the routines?
Okay. So again, as you said, it depends on the level. So children at level 1, the smallest accommodations, you'll see results. Children at level 2, you need to do more work. Children at level 3, you need to do extra work to make sure that they get to the level where they can fit in. And just the way we didn't learn everything that they taught us. Even children with autism are also, you know, that's why we call them children with autism, not autistic children.
Yes.
Because they're children first. Yeah, they have likes, they have dislikes, they have genetic things that we gave them, you know, all those things. So just because the way we didn't learn everything we are taught, also children with autism will not learn everything. And we need to know that, and also have our expectations at a certain level, because sometimes we want to treat everything that we see in them. Yes, we want to treat everything. When he doesn't want beans, you want to treat beans. Then the next week he doesn't want this, you want to treat it. But then we as individuals, when you remember that this is a child first, or a person first, there are foods that you don't like as an individual, isn't it?
Yes.
But you're not cured from them. You just don't eat them. You eat something different and it's fine. So even with children with autism, it's the same. So we need to know, parents need to look at their child and decide, what things do I want to change in my child? And then you start focusing on those, and not focus on everything, and not think that everything is autism, because some of it is genetics, some of it is temperament, some of it is behavior that they have gotten from home. Yeah, you don't need to cure everything.
Then what dietary interventions do you have for them? Because like you said, in a situation like that, do they get to a point, given that they're used to particular routines, do you have scenarios of some of these children who specifically want to stick to a particular meal all throughout and don't care about anything else?
Yes.
Much as you try to introduce them to other foods?
Yes. I have a grown-up friend who lives in the UK who only eats chips and beans every single day of his life. Now he's an engineer, and he's married, and he's happy. Okay? So, but the family had to find ways of introducing nutrition into his body, you know? So like today try to give him a little yogurt, the next day try to give him something else. So while you try to introduce the child, what I'm trying to say is, there are children who, no matter how much you try, they may not like
what you're giving them.
But as long as you try, and you try to introduce them to as much as possible, when they grow older, they can choose what they're going to eat. And then to go back to diet also in a very serious way, research has shown that children with autism who do not eat wheat products flourish better. So if you find in our centers we don't give bread to children with autism, we'll not give chapati, we'll not give mandazi, so it's wheat free. Then some parents have tried gluten free, meaning sorry, that is the gluten-free diet. And then the dairy-free diets, where children are not eating dairy products, and they feel better. But whatever diet, especially, so the gluten-free, I totally say, do it, because we have researched it and we've seen it work. Then the milk-free or the dairy-free, I hesitate a little, because children need milk. Unless you have supplements that can help with, give the children enough calcium, give the children the other nutrients that come from milk, then you can't take it away from them. Unless, of course, they're allergic to it. Yes. So that and then there are so many other diets that that people are promoting. But one thing as a parent you have to do is you try. It might work for the child, it might not. It might even increase the symptoms. Yes, so you just try, and always keep a record. You say when he drank milk, this is how he behaved. When he ate like maybe pasta, this is how he behaved. You know, you just choose, and you try one intervention at a time so that you don't confuse all of them. So if you're going to try a gluten-free diet, you said day one, we tried, we removed bread. What happened? Maybe he slept better, he played better, he didn't cause many fights, he didn't have tantrums, you know, and you write it down. And then the next day you remove something else, then the next day you remove something else, so that you can have your own research and your own child, because this child is an individual. So whatever intervention you do should be individualized, not what everybody is saying, but whatever works for child Florence, maybe.
Okay. Then it is said that they are very good when it comes to art. I don't know how far true it is, but it looks like it's parents who've got kids with children with that kind of condition are highlighting it a lot, and they say these kids are very, very, very artistic. And they also, you know, are very meticulous and will pay attention to detail. How far true is it?
So again, that's generalizing. But many are gifted at most of those technical things that do not need a lot of talking, don't need a lot. Basically, most children with autism, which I didn't say at the beginning when I was talking about social interaction, like to play alone. They like things that they do on their own and finish them. So art is one of those. Mechanics is one of those. So you will find, and their minds usually are quicker to get things. You find, I've known a child who threw down a phone and picked it up, and the child was only 5, picked up the phone and then put the pieces back in place where it's supposed to be. So some of them are actually highly gifted in these things, but some are not. So it's again individualized.
Wow, very interesting. Now, in the homes, would you still kind of be like, when you talk about the colors, have you visited some of these homes for some of the people, taking you back to one of the things you said, when you come to behavior, if somebody's interested in the blues and the what, is it a routine that cannot be broken by any chance? Stick to that forever and ever?
No. Or you try to introduce them slowly. You don't take it away all in one go, but you introduce them slowly. So if you know your child likes blue, for example, and everything is blue, then you slowly try to put in other colors, and even try to put in colors that blend better with blue first, you know, and then slowly change it.
Okay, at this particular point, I'd like us to take another short break, and then when we come back, we'll still take you more into our topic of discussion.
this weekend on UBC.
But she represents what she does represent, what Subi represents.
Yes.
Is the goodness in humanity.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I did say that you know, from our work with 4040, even Boundless, that we rely a lot on social media to push for the goodness of people to do things, right?
Yes.
So for every good, there are also people that are doing bad, and I think that's what we always need to remember. So you will, I mean, Subi's example is classic, right? That you have someone that thinks it's funny that someone will show up with these sorts of bag at university, right? So they are trying to bully him.
I hate marriages that fail. I don't want your marriage to fail. Why? I mean, I'm succeeding in marriage. Why should you fail? Why should you fail? I hate it. And that's why we come over here every other moment to unlock the marital bliss.
You know, you're my wife. I loved you. I will always love you.
I want to thank you for standing with me. I want to thank you for raising our children. I want to thank you for the life we have stayed together. Thank you for being a wonderful woman. I wish every husband had a woman like Justine.
Yes. I have loved you from day one, and I always love you.
Amen.
Thank you for loving me. Thank you for taking care of us.
Amen.
I love you.
I love
till
you.
death does us apart.
Amen.
A hug. Yes, once you have the key, you don't have to fight. You just insert the key, turn around, and unlock bliss in your marriage. And that is why we are here. Remember to always follow us on Facebook, Twitter, social media, YouTube, and hey, let us know how this has been a blessing to you.
Welcome back from that short break. You're still watching U Health Chat, proudly sponsored by National Medical Stores. Now, we're talking about autism spectrum disorder, and of course, I get back to Florence, who is here to share with us a lot more of helpful information that we can be able to help identify some of the children with this kind of condition or disorder. Now, another challenge, Florence, as we're still talking about this, is parents assuming out of the 5 kids, it's one who has this disorder, helping this child fit in, and also helping the other siblings or the other children in the home accept the child the way they are. Because given the fact that you mentioned a situation where one wants to play alone, possibly might want to do everything on their own. If I've put my pencil or my toys in a particular queue, I don't want you to touch them, yet we are all going to share and to play with the same toys. How can you help in a situation like that?
Okay. I think the first thing a parent needs to do is to explain to the other children as early as possible, yeah, when they're old enough to understand what their sibling's condition is. Then the parent needs to explain that, you know, Florence likes playing alone, Florence doesn't like to be touched like this, Florence wants to do this like this. Yes, you explain to them so that they can know, you're not favoring the other child. Because what happens to siblings, if mommy overly indulges the other one with autism, or even with any other disability, or even with any other illness, sometimes there's sibling rivalry and resentment, feeling that this one child takes all mommy's time. So it's very important to explain to the kids, the rest of the family, what is going on, and openly share that this one has an issue. But also help this child as quickly as possible to learn how to manage their behavior. It's very important to help them learn to share, learn to turn take, learn to play with others, learn to play in a group. So there will be some activities that are so difficult, and there will be some tendencies where he wants to be on his own, but at least he should learn to be able to associate with others.
And then how do you keep this child safe? Let's assume like that one who's on the high and would like to, feel They feel for them they're not afraid of heights, you're afraid of heights.
Yes.
How do you help to reduce the risk of accidents among the children of that nature?
So with those children, as I said, you need to give them something that helps them feel the same sensory feedback that they get when they're climbing on the roof. So, but also be very, very careful. And sometimes you have to even build, like, what are they called? Barriers to make sure, like for health and safety, you need to make sure you put barriers, because they will not be afraid and they will not understand that it's wrong. So what you need to do is to give them something else. So for example, what we do is a lot of swinging. Yeah, we do a lot of swinging, we do a lot of heavy lifting, we do a lot of exercises where they do things that involve their whole body, jumping up and down, and these are things that you can do as a family to help this child get the sensory feedback that they need.
Wow.
Yes. And then just help the child also to understand, especially if they have some level of understanding, help them understand that that is dangerous, and also consistently saying no to certain things, because when you're changing behavior, you have to be consistent and you have to be intentional with our behavior as individuals without the condition autism, but also with children with autism. You can't allow it today and refuse it tomorrow, and allow it at lunchtime and refuse it wherever. You have to make sure that if you've decided he's not climbing that roof, he's really not climbing that roof. Whether he throws a tantrum, whether he falls all over, whether he screams at you, he is not climbing. So if you consistently do that, then he'll sort of learn that
this isn't right.
Especially when you do it at an early age. And that's the thing that we encourage parents. Please start as early as possible. Because if a child has a behavior that you're worried about, so for example, those ones who beat and pinch their peers or whatever, fight and all those things. If a child is doing that when he's 2, you say, oh, he pinched me, and it's very small. But if he does it at 15, it is a big pinch. Or if he slaps you at 15, it's such a big pinch compared to a 2-year-old slap. So you need to make sure that whatever you will not permit, you do not permit it at 2. You start there to work on this behavior, so that when he's older, you're not fighting the same battles.
Okay. Now I would like you to share with me your experience at Dawn, that is at the Special Children's Trust. Given the fact that you have not only children with autism, but you also have other disorders or other conditions or other special needs, should I say. How is it? How are you managing and coping with them? Because some on the high, some on the low, some need particular kind of attention, some need physiotherapy, some need exercises, some are crying around, some need to be carried. How do you deal with it?
Yeah. So working with children with special needs is labor intensive, I can tell you. Excuse me. What that means is that you have so many people working with these children. So for example, and you said we have children with different special needs, but we also have children without any special needs also in the same classes. So what we do is, each class we keep very small sizes in the classes. I think our biggest class right now is actually maybe middle class, which has gone up to 18 or 19 children, but we would not go beyond 20. So we try as much as possible to keep the sizes small. But in the classroom, there are 2 teachers sometimes, and those ones that are like 20, maybe even 3 teachers in the same class. And so then some are teachers, and we also have some carers that can also help with the work. And then we have, as you said, therapists of different kinds who will do one-on-one, but also do group activities with the children. And so we make sure that we create an environment where everybody on the team knows what to do with children. So whether you're a therapist, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a carer, you know how to help with behavior. You know how to help with tantrums. You know how to do potty training. You know you have the patience to do different things with the kids. You know how to intentionally play with kids so that they can get their sensory feedback. So we do a lot of trainings for our teams. And then the other thing that helps us, and right now that's what we're doing, individualized assessments for the kids, and then setting goals. So in a class you might find one child whose goal is to be able to stand because he has a physical disability. So when they're in the classroom, the standing frame is also there, that when they're writing in their stander. So they get exposed to standing many, many times. Then we have the goal with some children whose goal is to learn how to write on a straight line, and so that they can write well on a straight line. So whatever we're doing, games we're doing, whatever will involve helping them to write. So individualized goals help us a lot.
Okay.
So we try to make sure that it's the same. So if a child is in, say, baby class, they are learning baby class work, all of them, but at different levels, to make sure that every child learns and no child is left behind.
Wow. Do you have any success stories to share about some of the children from the school, those who've actually left the school? Because at a certain point, they grow. And when they grow, they have to go and move on with life, get into another environment or another setup.
Yes.
Do you have any success stories to share?
I think there are so many success stories. We have a lot of success with our children. We have so many children that came to us when they're totally non-verbal, and then they started speaking, and not just speaking one word or two, but speaking full sentences. We have children who everybody, they were in different schools and they said they couldn't learn at all, and now can read and write. We have children, we have children, successes at different levels. We even have children who their parents were saying, children who don't seem to have a disability, but they had poor behavior and the parent brought them, and now they're sharing and taking care of others. So yeah, there's a lot of success at the centers.
Wow. Then do you do home visits as well? Because some parents, I imagine it's rather costly for the parent, because you need to guide them and to help them on some of these specific interventions to make the children fit in. So sometimes you go an extra mile to visit some of the homes.
Especially if a child is not making any progress, then we'll visit. But yes, so we make sure we visit the home, but also like at Mukisa, we visit every child because they have less children, so we visit every child during the holidays to make sure that they're implementing the care plans that we've given them. Yeah, but one thing I would like to emphasize, that this one-on-one therapy at home, especially for children with autism, with no other intervention, usually doesn't work, because children with autism do not know how to transfer information. That is one of the things. So if they learn something in this setting, they will not be able to take it to the next setting. Yes. So it's always better to learn in an environment that is actually being set for them to learn. So it's better to be in school, it's better to be in a center, it's better to interact with others. Because you find many children that come to us at age 7, age 8, and the parent says, yes, they were being visited every day by a therapist at home. And then you find that that visit is really not impacting on their life, unless the therapist invests a lot of time to train everybody in the house to do exactly the same. Exactly. So it needs, what we say is, autism is a lifestyle. You need to make sure that everything around this child is built in such a way that nurtures them and helps them to thrive. If you just do bits of it, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Okay, in about a minute or so, I'd like you to share your final remark to a person who's watching you right now.
Yes, I think the thing I would like to talk about is what you said about witchcraft and the myths and the beliefs that are around not just autism, but every disability. I would like the parents to ensure that they seek proper medical help as early as possible, because as I said, early intervention is key for every disability. So be it autism, be it a physical disability, anything. If you get a child at an early age, then the child will get better, you'll get better results. But if you spend time going from which doctor to which doctor, to from one church to the other, from other intervention to other intervention, then a child loses a lot of time. So I recommend that if you're going to pray while you're also seeking remedies. And do not let anybody tell you that your child cannot do anything, because every child can learn, especially if you teach them the way they should learn. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Flores, for your time. And I believe to a parent who's been out there and watching this show, they have gotten a lot of information to learn, because you know, the population keeps on growing. So this will help parents to be able to identify and to be able to take care of our children well and seek early medical intervention. Thank you so much for the information you've shared with us tonight. Well, that is what we had for you. My name is Sophia Matovu. I was sitting in for Dr. Henry Dungu. And at the top of the hour at 10, Edward Rukidi Chijenangoma is coming on with the news, and that sign language will be Mugalu Mohammed. I would like to say keep watching UBC TV, and a very good evening from me and Florence. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Okay.
brought to you by national medical stores who are mandated to procure, store, distribute essential medicines and medical supplies to all public health facilities in the country.